Let's not even bring up what the topic is. We're just gonna say yes.
We're just gonna vote on it.
The voting only episode. Hello and welcome to the CouncilCast. This is episode 33, recorded on January 16th, 2018. The council is now in session, and as with every week, we will make arbitrary decisions about topics on science, technology, and random shit with little background and next to no expertise. All CouncilCast decisions are final and have no bearing on anything. So first topic, yes or no?
Like it.
Excellent. Actually, the first thing up on our rundown on the side of your screen there is that we have that NASA found water on Mars officially.
About time.
So they were doing some, sampling, but using some new, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. They apparently have discovered abundant sources of easy-to-access water frozen just in a layer underneath, not too far underneath the surface of Mars. So they now think that it's going to be, recently we've been hearing that they thought they weren't going to be able to find much water, and now they're saying that there's an absolute abundance of ice. Unsure if it's actually poisonous or not yet, but...
No worries.
Brita filters.
Brita filters.
It was like carbon filter straws.
It'll totally work. So, good? No? We like water? Who wants to go live on Mars?
Well,
drink some Mars water?
You know, this just makes me think of the episode, I forget what episode number it was, but where we were talking about them sending the group to Mars. Remember they had you could send in an application video?
That was from the original version.
The original CouncilCast?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. That was my favorite one because it was like, well, I've got nothing going on with my life. Like, maybe I should apply. When, you get cryogenically frozen and then they send you back in time to Mars or something. I can't remember all the details, but I do remember that they had interviews and you could send in your video, and they had, way more submissions than they were able to keep up with. So no wonder it's taken them a long time. But I'm glad they found water.
I thought that was a different company than NASA, though. I thought it was some private company that was going to build a rocket and send people to Mars.
Oh, it might have been. And then they're taking them on a world tour to see all of the greatest things on Earth and try all the best.
So they could go tell all the Martians about it?
Yes. Yes. So they could be proper delegates when they show up on Mars.
Seems like a long way to get a glass of water.
Wrong?
That's what I'm wondering about.
What's that?
How often is NASA wrong?
Define wrong.
1 and 2.
Well, they did say they're not 100% sure, but they're pretty sure. So it's possible they could be wrong.
Oh, in that case, then I'm going to give them a big thumbs up.
I think the real question here is, does the water taste better on Mars?
Better than Ames? Probably not.
It's a tough sell. I don't know. You'll have to fly there and ask the Martians, I guess.
What do you guys think of the water around here? Well, we'd like it if it weren't poisoned with lead. Some of the astronauts might actually be, well-versed in drinking lead water from their hometown, depending on where they're from.
Maybe better or worse. I think it'll, the next thing, though, is that if Elon Musk is going to be sending his Tesla car there, he probably needs to figure out a way to power it with water now instead of electricity.
Can send a supercharger with it?
And plug into the Martian electric grid.
Really long cable.
Man, I wish I had Logan here. My brother Logan would be able to tell me why it wouldn't work or how long it would take for electricity to get from Earth to Mars. He probably knows that fact. Anyway.
It probably will take about as long as it takes light to get there.
Probably.
Approximately. I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist or anything, but sounds about right. All right, thumbs up or thumbs down on NASA finding water? I'll give it thumbs down because I don't know if it tastes any good.
That's good. That's a good point. That's a good point. But I'm going to stick with the Brita filters theory. So
yeah, you can always filter it.
All right. that's it for all of the science topics. So moving on to technology, we're going to move into probably what is some of the biggest news in, I would say, computer security in the last probably 2 to 3 weeks, is the Meltdown and Spectre security flaw in basically every CPU processor that exists today, some worse than others, for probably the last 10 years. So if you guys haven't heard about this, what this is about, it was right around Christmas time. There was a security researcher who had posted some updates to the Linux kernel through their site, and people started asking questions about why it was there and what it was doing. And eventually somebody figured it out, and they have found out that they can apparently access low-level kernel information stored in the kernel of your CPU that could potentially allow nefarious people, let's say, access to information that the operating system or you would or other people may not typically be allowed to access. And apparently, when it originally came out, it was the biggest thing was that it's a flaw in Intel's processors specifically, who is the largest supplier of processors probably in the world at this point in time. Well, maybe not the world. And that AMD came out and said, well, no, guys, we're totally fine. We're totally not going to be not in fault here. We're all okay. And really what it stems from is, I guess, the ability for processors to do prediction calculations. And so you can basically trick the processor into giving you information that it shouldn't be giving you. And it just so happened to be even worse on Intel processors because of how aggressively they try to predict what you're going to be doing next. So, the biggest deal, the biggest deal is it's just this huge security flaw. I wouldn't say it necessarily impacts every individual user on a computer per se, but the biggest issue is that for all the people operating data centers all running on Intel hardware, this is a huge security flaw that could allow anybody to kind of access any information that they want across systems or across virtual machines or anything like that. So,
stuff right there.
So the solution now has been there's two issues. There's what they're calling the Meltdown, which is the I believe the Intel specific one, and then Spectre, which actually affects both Intel, AMD, ARM, pretty much anybody out there who's doing branch prediction. And so what it's fallen on is that these issues are so ingrained into the actual design. It's not really it wasn't somebody's fault who said, oh, by the way, I'm putting this in and this is going to ruin everything. It's just the inherent design to the way that Intel and AMD and everybody has decided to design processors. And it's so low level to that processor design that the only way to fix it is through massive operating system updates. So another reminder for people out there that if you are not running or constantly updating your software, you probably should be. So the question is this an issue? First of all, is it concerning to the everyday consumer, and what can we do to fix it, or should we be fixing it? And I think the biggest thing that came out is that these software patches that are coming out from Microsoft and Apple and everybody like that, because of the way that Intel has been doing its branch prediction, they have to basically stop that from happening. That a lot of people were predicting slowdowns on Intel-based computers anywhere from 5 to 30% slower performance, depending on the task that you're running.
That's crazy. I think that for, since, what was it, maybe 1990, 1987, 88, this has been a problem. I mean, just look at Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, that guy was able to hack into his school using a desktop that his parents got him instead of the car that he wanted. So, I mean, if he could do it, this flaw is a problem.
And that computer back in 1980, whatever, it's same basic concept of whatever you guys were talking about.
And the internet wasn't even around, so I have no idea how he was doing that. But if he was able to do that without the internet.
Is this the same exploit like in Office Space?
Same software.
so he could route millions to his bank account, just pennies at a time.
Just pieces of a penny.
It's going to become a millionaire in about 1 million years.
I don't know enough about how to hack into computers. I mean, this is why we need one of the Matts here tonight to really dive into how scared we should be. But yeah, I think that if computer building companies and creators are getting lazy with what they're doing in a way that has created a security flaw that is going to affect every computer that exists right now. Luckily, they make them to break down in a year and a half anyway, so most people are going to have to update, and hopefully they'll fix the error by then, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I'm obviously no computer security expert by any means, so I'm going to make a very obvious judgment here. But I think the interesting thing is that Intel has been pushing, everybody knows Intel's probably the best, the fastest, the bestest, whatever you want to call it, CPU. And to have this kind of flaw come out and require a software update that's going to slow their processors down to almost the same performance of maybe what their competitors are, it's yeah, they're maybe not doing something wrong, but I think that it's a pretty big issue, and obviously they may have been taking advantage of some things there. So
I have to wonder if they didn't know about it. I mean, there's some pretty smart guys working on this stuff, men and women, that you would think that they would have already figured out this is a problem a long time ago.
yeah, I think that's a good point, and from what I was hearing, the reason that it's been out there for so long without issue is that nobody really knew how to test for this. I think that's, as we obviously are talking here, that I'm not an expert in how well or how a CPU does this calculations and its prediction and how it figures all that out, but yeah, I think that some of the methods used to test for it are relatively new, that we may not have been an issue until relatively recently. But I think one of the a guy who was previously at Intel is one of the original guys who found the software flaw and kind of brought it to light at that point in time. So I think the biggest thing here is I don't think, again, as with most security flaws, the majority of the people who are going to be affected are probably not the individual users, but it is a reminder to make sure that you are updating your software. And obviously, the biggest people impacted are going to be the cloud providers and big data center operators. So, be safe, be smart, update your software.
It's hard. Updating your software is, yeah, I'm going to thumbs up to the software update and thumbs down to them having created a system that's so flawed in the first place. The only other thing I want to say about it was, like, for me as a user of the film editing software that I use, that stuff those types of companies aren't always informed fast enough, or can't be sometimes in situations like this, of software updates. And so there are lots of forums that I read that are like, avoid doing software system updates as long as possible so that all the bugs can get worked out before you update it, and then it affects your Adobe software or whatever. But
yeah, that's actually a good point. And that, I didn't really mention this, but updating software does come with some caveats, like you said. And some of these updates that Microsoft and everybody has been pushing has actually been known to completely brick or create some systems to, when they restart, they don't restart into Windows anymore. And it also has created an issue with a lot of the actually antivirus providers. A lot of the antivirus providers, the software actually is looking at a lot of that kernel information, and I guess these software updates blocks a lot of that. So people who are running antivirus have had more issues than maybe people who are not running antivirus, which just seems totally counterintuitive to the whole scenario. So it is a word of warning. Make sure you are updating, but also on the same hand, maybe don't be the first one all the time.
Yeah. I'll
the early bird gets screwed. I don't know.
Yeah. That's kind of the mantra.
Don't eat a bad worm. All right. Anyway, that wraps up security. So, kind of keeping with the theme of Intel's CPUs, though, is some new technology that came out. They recently announced this, I think, back in December, but they actually had chips at CES last week. But Intel processors that have integrated AMD graphics chips on them.
Wow.
So obviously the two big CPU competitors are kind of getting together here and working with the CPU guys and the GPU guys to come up with an integrated processor chip, which is just, I think, absolutely amazing.
It'll be fast.
This is really, really cool stuff. I think it's going to really help. We've always had Intel's always been a little bit behind on the integrated graphics front. They've never really been able to compete with what NVIDIA and AMD can really do. And most of the time, you've ended up with laptops that have had dedicated chips in them, and they tend to be a little bit bulky, a little bit heavy, a little bit hotter. And looking at some of these chips, they've shrunk them down. These things are way, way smaller.
Wow.
I think this is going to give, especially in the mobile and with laptops and these tablet form factors, they're going to make them even smaller, faster, more battery life, which is awesome. So who wants one?
Progress.
Yeah.
Does anybody buy laptops anymore? Do you guys even? You're on a laptop, Silas, but
Yep.
I haven't bought a laptop
I'm on a laptop.
since.
Mine's a work laptop, so I didn't buy it.
Well, I haven't bought a laptop since I think 2008.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh
my
my
laptop
gosh.
is still my old MacBook, and every time I have to go somewhere, I bring that thing along, and it runs so slow.
Well, my laptop doesn't run that slow. It's new and it runs fast.
Do you think that people are still buying a lot of laptops though today? I mean, I think I'm
Yeah.
just in the minority here, but
Yeah.
I think you are in the minority, Blaine. But what's funny is people, I think, typically are just using their laptops to sit on their couch and watch TV.
Yeah.
And then just kind of browsing Facebook on their laptop, and then they're like, "Oh, I want to get off my laptop," and then they pull out their tablet, and then they browse Facebook on that. And they're like, "Okay, I'm done with that. Now I'm going to browse it on my cell phone."
Hmm.
I mean, it changes depending on what screen you're looking at.
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that, I'm looking at the next computer that I want. Right now, we're getting ready to be on the road for a year here. And so a desktop would not have been convenient nor practical.
And just put it on your back.
Just get a really small form factor one. You'll be okay.
So I wanted I've been looking though, the new, we'll have to put this on the agenda for next week or something. I know I'm probably the only Mac guy in the whole group, but I want the new iMac Pro. And so that's the only desktop type computer that I've looked at getting in the last, well, no, I take that back because I've wanted the Mac Pro. And now that the iMac Pro came out, it's faster than what the Mac Pro was able to do, even though it's, the screen's included and everything. It's just super fast. It's a 5K monitor, and it goes up to 18 core, and the graphics are insanely fast graphics, and you can get up to 12 gigs of graphics or something like that, 8 or 12 gigs of stupid fast graphics, and 128 gigs of RAM. This thing is just...
I forget, how much was that again?
When you soup it up for everything, it's $13,000.
Oh, that's right. That's all. 13,000.
Which is, obviously, you can build a PC, a custom build one, or even
You could fill a room of PCs for that.
Yeah, you could. But
Very big room.
But what I love about the last time that I did a build, I kept, every time I went to go turn it on, I was like, what am I going to have to deal with now? And especially with the software I was using, I had Frankenstein this thing together, and not all the pieces wanted to, if I didn't update for the graphics card, then it made the CPU not happy, etc. And so weird things were happening. One time I didn't update for, I can't remember what, and then one of my monitors just stopped working. And I was like, I don't know how to undo this. And so I don't mind spending $13,000 if I'm going to have the computer for the next 5 years, and I'm not going to have to do anything besides just click update software whenever Apple tells me to. So Anyway, that's a very big aside for loving the NVIDIA gaming performance.
Yes, I think that I'm going to give this guy a thumbs up because although I don't have a laptop, I think that it's helpful for people who are buying them. So
Progress.
Progress. Anthony's always game for progress.
Progress.
all right, so if you want to run your laptop even longer, though, you may need some more batteries. And apparently, this company, this is something else kind of came out of CES from Kota. I think that's how you say it, Kota Power. They've apparently come up with a battery, a AA battery size, that recharges itself based on Wi-Fi radiation. So basically,
it sucks power right out of the air.
It sucks wireless power out of the air. That's essentially what it is. They're using radiation to recharge what I'm assuming is probably a little bit smaller battery. But the unique thing is they put it inside of a AA battery size, which is genius if you're going to get anybody to adopt it. Nobody's going to want to buy a different battery. And essentially you just leave it there and it'll just recharge itself as it sits in the air.
That's so crazy. So you can have it plugged into something that's within reach of Wi-Fi, which nowadays is basically everywhere. You drive down even if you don't have to be able to log into their network, but you drive down the street and you've hit like a cosmosphere. Of Wi-Fi radiation that is going to charge your little device. It's amazing. I want it now.
You essentially, they say, you could plug it into your TV remote or your, wireless camera that maybe runs on batteries, and literally the wireless is recharging itself the entire time. It never goes dead.
How long does it last then?
I don't think they really say. It sounds like it's pretty much still. I'm surprised that they even had a demo prototype. It kind of looks like, but they don't really have much information other than that.
It's not a real prototype. They just got a label and wrapped it around an actual AA and said, "This thing can charge itself." Oh, prove it.
Well, see, it's charged and there's Wi-Fi here. It was dead yesterday, I swear.
Why do you have two of them in your hand?
Oh, man.
I think it's a great idea. It kind of goes along with like last week where we were talking about this wireless power charging stuff. But I think this is just a different, new, slightly unique way of doing it, which doesn't require special charging pads, but maybe a special battery, but that's about it. If it never goes dead,
did they say how much it was going to cost?
Nope. Probably won't come out for like 5 years yet.
Yeah, I mean, in 5 years, if you spend, even if I had to go spend $30 for two of these things, but I knew it was going to last me 4, 5, 6. How long does a AA last in your remote right now?
A week.
If it lasts then 2 or 3 months, then it's a good deal.
It does seem like it, though. You get them, and sometimes you take them out of the package and put them in and push the button in, and it doesn't take long before they're dead. And they come to you dead or partially charged.
Well, there you go.
Well, I think applications where this could be useful would be like smoke detectors or smoke detectors in like large buildings.
Wow, that's a good idea.
That hard to get to pieces of equipment that require like 9-volt batteries or some type of small battery device. That is a huge pain in the butt to change. That they could just basically have this if the life of the battery is high enough that it justifies the cost, that they could just basically set and forget it for a long time.
That's a good point.
That's a really good point.
I think security cameras too. Most of the security cameras require to be plugged in somewhere or run on batteries, which means you're going to have to recharge it or swap those batteries, and you're already going to be pumping Wi-Fi to the camera to pick it up regardless. So, if you have something you just mount on the outside of your house or somewhere where you typically don't have an outlet, you don't have to worry about it.
Or even like
remotes.
Or just put in your TV remote.
I was gonna say, or instead of like outdoor lighting that's based on solar, you could have ones that are operated on Wi-Fi battery charging capabilities.
Oh, cool.
So if it's in a low sunlight area, because we have some lights in our front along our walkway that hardly ever turn on because the sun doesn't hit them most of the year.
I'm gonna put it in my Game Boy.
There you
go. My Walkman. That's what I'm gonna use it for.
All right, I'm gonna put thumbs up on this guy because I like it. It looks good.
I think the potential's good.
So I think that's gonna wrap up at least the technology portion. So we're moving into some of the other cool stuff, and keeping with the CES theme, I think this may be my favorite thing, even though it's kind of weird from CES. But it's a robot therapy duck, and so what it is that Aflac, apparently, the insurance company, has partnered with this company that makes a little robotic duck for kids who have cancer, and helps the kids kind of deal with their cancer and stuff like that. And it has some RFID stuff where you can tap it to the pictures of a feeling, and you can tap that feeling picture to the duck, and the duck reacts as if it has that feeling. It also has a portacath, so that you can apparently have a port that you plug like a catheter or something like that into it, so that the little kids, if they're going to be going in for chemotherapy or something like that, they can actually hook up the duck as if the duck's going to be getting the same treatment as well, and kind of help support these kids as they're going through their cancer stuff. So
it's kind of weird, but if the kids love it,
that's pretty cool. Yeah,
it was a need that I'm luckily unaware that we needed.
Yeah, and apparently they're not even going to sell this thing. It's not going to be commercially available. They're going to actually work with giving them out for free with the hospitals. So,
oh wow.
So something you don't really hear, but I thought that was really cool. So I'm thumbs up in that for sure.
I think so.
I will thumbs up it. Always, whenever I hear about companies doing stuff like that, though, like, oh, let's make an Aflac duck to give away to kids with cancer. It makes me wonder if which was the source of this brainchild. Was it a marketing guy who was like, hey, I got a great idea. There are a lot of kids with cancer, right? Let's give them Aflac ducks so that their parents will think about us every time they go to get chemo, which makes me just sad about it then. But I hope that the kids get something good out of it. Debbie Downer, I know I'm the worst.
Yeah. Well, now it's a thumbs down.
Well, my doctor told me that I can't get pregnant. Wah, wah. You guys ever watch the Debbie Downer spots on Saturday Night Live?
Yes.
Never mind. Okay, I'm stopped.
Yeah, I think this is great. And I think, therapy animals have been used, I think, quite a bit now in a lot of mental health as well, just helping people cope with their feelings and being able to tactily feel something that's soft or cuddly or whatever it may be. Helps them too. So
that's cool.
Anyway, that's all the cool stuff we've got. I think if anybody wants to wrap up, we can do some best or worst picks from CES for those of us who had researched that prior to the show.
So, Blaine?
Yeah, Blaine.
I actually didn't have anything. Most of the stuff I posted was from so.
Let's just table it for next week. And if anything, because I'm sure over the next week, a lot more stuff will pop up as people are reposting things. So we'll table it for next week. You know what? Let's just indefinitely table it. And if things pop up, then we talk about it.
We can bring it up again next year when we have another CES to talk about.
Anyone hear anything cool from CES this last year? Anyone?
And if anybody out there, any viewers have anything they want us to talk about, you can email us at councilcast@thecouncilcast.com, which will definitely go somewhere.
It shows up to an inbox.
And Silas will respond to you. Lucky.
Yep. Watch out. I'll say something.
All right. With this, the council meeting is now adjourned. If you liked what you saw and want to check out all past episodes of the CouncilCast, you can go to the CouncilCast or councilcast.org. And all of our podcasts are recorded live on YouTube, but you can also find the audio files on iTunes. If you have a topic you'd like the council's decision on, you can email us at thecouncilcast@gmail.com or connect with us on the Twitters at the CouncilCast or Facebook by searching CouncilCast. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.